But today I'm not going to talk about much of our business, but maybe how we provide value to our clients and to their customers. So the topic that I'm going to talk about today is something that's very close to my heart from the time that I started working with startups in Thailand for the past 4 years until I decided to come back in the Philippines to help more startups raise funding. Because one of the challenges of startups in the Philippines is access to funding. There may be some angel investors, family offices, a bit of venture capitals in the Philippines, but if you're a startup and you really want to raise a decent amount of funding to be able to build your company, most of us go to Singapore. As a matter of fact, our team is going to be in Singapore again next week for the 3rd time this quarter to speak with IFC, Golden Gate Ventures, and some VCs, as well as going back to Hong Kong and Silicon Valley, just to get that funding. But don't get me wrong, there are still a lot of angels and VCs that are investing to companies with potentials in the Philippines. So today I'm going to talk about gender and financial inclusion in the Philippines that is very focused on the industry that we're working with, real estate. So last December 2018, the World Economic Forum released a report saying that the Philippines has managed to close about 80% of its gender gap. And mind you, we're the only country in Southeast Asia. So I'm happy to tell everybody here where I see a lot of women in this room, and I'm so happy to see that, because in our team, there are 30 of us, but there are only 3 women in the team. So I'd say I'm very fortunate to be in a position to be able to promote these women based on their skills and their capabilities. And in the Philippines, we were rated depending on the labor force participation. So here, more than 50% of the labor force in the Philippines, especially in the BPO space, real estate, and other industries, are composed of women. And we're very fortunate because compared to other developing countries in Southeast Asia, maybe not just in Southeast Asia, but also in Africa and other countries outside of Asia, there's just minimal opportunity that are available to women. Here in the Philippines, women are welcome to excel at what we do. Agree? Yes, okay. Educational attainment. The opportunity for education in the Philippines, even for STEM courses, which a lot of organizations right now are actively promoting, even United Nations, JP Morgan, they're sponsoring programs and initiatives, even US Embassy. They're sponsoring initiatives that are promoting girls and women in STEM. Last week, they just celebrated the International Women's Day. Women's and girls in STEM, or science and mathematics. In terms of graduating in college and the university, there's a good amount of women that are successfully graduating in their courses of choices. And that's not only limited to business courses, marketing, or sales, but also in engineering and science. Health and survival. Somehow the opportunity for women to have access to, let's say, as simple as HMO in their workplace, in the call centers, it's very equal in terms of the coverage. Let's say, for example, in a typical BPO setup, they can have a coverage of 100,000 for HMO. It's not like 100,000 for men and 50,000 for women. It's very equal. Whatever men gets, the women gets also in terms of health benefits. And lastly, political empowerment. Can you give me a Southeast Asian countries that already had 2 women presidents? Only in the Philippines. That's why I would tell you that from 2017, we've actually climbed 2 notches from being the top 10 to top 8 in the whole 149 countries. And I think that's an achievement for our country. In terms of remittances, maybe some of you are already aware of this, those people who are in FinTech, Beam and Go, almost 54% of the people that are sending money back to the country are women. And I was also surprised myself because I was an OFW 2 years back when I was living in Thailand. And I didn't really notice that there are more Filipino women working overseas. It could also be because of the opportunities available for us. There are so many Filipinos that are working like as domestic helpers in Hong Kong, but it's not only limited to those jobs, but also the professional ones in Singapore, United States, Canada, and Europe. Now let's talk about, aside from remittance that Beam and Go discussed earlier, let's talk about the payments that are coming to the Philippines. For the payments alone, they talk about $450 billion in terms of remittances coming to the country. For the payments here, composed of BPO payments, real estate, logistics, and even bills payments for tuitions and electricity and water from our OFWs. 50 billion of this are going, 50 billion of all of these remittances are going to the Philippines. And 6 billion of this 50 billion is going to real estate. So imagine the amount of OFWs, Filipino workers, and foreigners that are buying properties in the country. But then the question is, how easy it is to make a payment for those properties. The number one problem of our 17 live property developers that we're partnered with around the Philippines is being able to collect payments from abroad. 70% of the transactions that we're processing cross-border are real estate developers. To name a few, these are Ayala Land, DMCI. We've just recently closed 2 more big property developers. We have Italpinas from the south, and we also have some property developers from Cebu. And one of their pain points that they're trying to solve right now is, how can we actively sell properties to OFWs and foreigners without requiring them to issue us check? Maybe not everybody are aware of this, especially our foreign guests, that if you want to buy a property in the Philippines, you put in a down payment, let's say a 10% or 20% down payment of your condominium. You love this pre-selling condominium in BGC. You see a potential of this bringing you an ROI in the next 3 years. But they would tell you to open a bank account, issue us a PDC. If your down payment is not spot cash, and they give you an option to pay your down payment in 24 months, 18 months, 12 months, you're required to have a PDC in the Philippines, right, Ms. Gray? And it's not only for Filipinos, but also for foreign buyers. So what do? With Qwikwire, if you walk in a booth, or let's say a showroom or a model unit of Ayala Land, and you said, I love this property. I want to buy this West Gallery place in BGC worth 60 million pesos. I'm willing to put in 10% down payment, or let's say 5% down payment. The thing that we ask you is, sir, do you have a bank account in the Philippines? Or, sir, can you possibly pay me in cash? At 2 million pesos in cash, how do you expect me to do that? Ask my relative to send me money via bank account? And how long would it usually take? Not to mention the KYC, all the IDs that you have to present to the bank for you to be able to send your money, let's say from Canada or from Europe, or let's say from Germany. But with Qwikwire, as simple as going to the website of Ayala Land, you can already process your payment with your debit card, credit card. We have Union Pay from China, we have JCB from Japan, all of the major credit cards, Visa, MasterCard, as well as American Express from the US, we can process it for you. What is our advantage compared to our competitors? 2 years ago, I remember that our founder was knocking on the doors of these property developers, asking them to do business with us. So we knock on the door of Ayala Land. We presented, this is what we can do for you. API integration, we can create a user dashboard for you. We can create an enterprise dashboard where you can export the reports of who paid you this month. Ayala Land said, we love it. We love to do business with you. Okay, let's onboard it. But their next question is, but who are your clients? How much payments have you already processed? What do you expect from a new payments company like us? That was 2 years ago. So, as expected, they didn't onboard us. They didn't want our service just because we didn't have traction yet. Until such time that two property developers, Active Group and Century Properties, which is very, very aggressive in foreign selling, trusted us and processed payment for us. From being able to process $600,000 2 years ago, we have processed $20 million worth of payments from last year. And that didn't include DMCI and Ayala yet. For this past 6 months alone, we have already onboarded 8 property developers. 6 are already live, and 2 will be live this next 2 weeks. So what is my point here? My only point is not to brag, but to only show you that there is a need for these payment services. And you know the question that we always get from these property developers? For a long time, why hasn't banks done this for us? Why have not banks provided us such service? Why have not they gone digital and do what you do? With our competitors, a buyer from the US would key in, because they went to our competitors first for the past 2 years. A buyer from the US, would key in their credit card information to the portal of the competitor. The first thing that they would see is a prompt to call your bank. Call American Express. Call Citibank. Call Wells Fargo. If it's a Chase-issued account, call Chase. Why is that? Because whenever you travel overseas, you have to notify your bank, right? Why? Because it's showing as an unusual transaction. So if you're buying a property in the Philippines, you key in your credit card information, it's being recognized as a transaction in the Philippines. And let me tell you, Philippines is a high-risk country for credit card transactions. But with us, we make it seamless for property developers because all of our acquiring banks are in the US. So when we process payments for them, it's very seamless because the transaction, if you are in Dubai, if you're in Saudi Arabia, this transaction is being recognized as a transaction going to the US. So that's one of the reasons why property developers love us. And just today, I'm telling you that our marketing team and our CEO are in Cebu training 350 agents of HT Land so that the agents would be able to sell properties to Filipinos and foreigners overseas by having a seamless payments portal. Okay, and just really fast, this is one of the problems that we also solve for them. We don't only give them an option to sell to their customers abroad, but we also solve a delinquency problem for them. For Century Properties, we have reduced their delinquency problem by 70%. Why? It's convenient now for their buyers to pay for their properties in the Philippines. So there's no excuse, there's no more reason to be late with their payments. We also have auto debit. So if you're kind of lazy to make the payment online every month, just enroll your credit card and your debit card to Qwikwire. So as I've mentioned, our acquiring banks are all in the US, Wells Fargo, Chase, and we also have an acquiring bank in Malaysia, so we're very actively partnering with Maybank in Asia, and of course BDO gives us a preferred rate for our property developers, and that's how we earn. We're accessible on your laptop, and we're also accessible to your phone. So why is it very important that I show you the business that we do? Oops. I want to show you the ratio of our data. We had more than 8,000 users for 2018. And recently, we got an interest because we're trying to raise funding so we can expand our business to more property developers in Malaysia and Thailand. We even got an interest from Mongolia. Imagine there's like more real estate developments in Mongolia. So we found out there was a request for us to create a data on our female consumers and our impact to women from a gender lens VC in Singapore. And when I was doing it manually, all the email addresses and the data, we found out that 50% of our payers, of all the payments we received from 2018, were from women. And I'm proud to say that this is a good number. It just shows that a lot more women are getting into investing into real estate, or I would say a lot more OFWs are buying houses or properties for their families in the Philippines. I can say that women are more family-oriented, right? And the 50% are men. But surprisingly, when we did our interviews with 4 property developers, such as these are Century Properties, Mega World, Rainwood Properties in the South, and another one, we found out from them that 60% of the drivers, I'd ask the men here, when you're buying a property, isn't it more influenced by women in your lives? Your wives, the girlfriends of all those men that are not married yet, and even their mothers and their parents. And that, I think this is very true. Because when my brother in Dubai and my brother in Singapore bought condominiums here in the Philippines and a property in Rizal, they were driven by my mother. And me and my sister, of course. So it just shows that the consumer power of women is really strong, at least in the Philippines. Another one that we're saying is the future is female. There's some kind of butterfly in my stomach when I say this. Why? Because me, myself, got involved with how our sales team are closing sales with partner property developers. I go with them, at least at the exploratory meeting. And I'll tell you, 70% of the decision makers are women. What am I trying to say here? The VPs, top executives of these property developers, I'm telling you, they're women. So they're the one who chooses Qwikwire to be the payments facility to implement to their brokers and agents, as well as to their sellers. We also did a quick interview with Driven Marketing. So this is one of the most active brokerage firms in the Philippines. And what they mainly do is train stay-at-home moms and career shifters to get into real estate. Because I personally believe that financial inclusion is not just all about giving Filipinos access to bank accounts. Last year, BSP, or Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, has implemented to the banks that you can already open an account with as low as 100 peso deposit. It's like a fee for the card, or 150 fee for the card. But like the previous head of, I think, financial literacy in BSP said, it's not just all about giving them access, but how do you empower people to even earn decent income to be able to save on these banks? Like, there was a survey last year of how many Filipinos are investing in the Philippines or buying insurances. And 18% of the Filipinos are only buying insurances. Why? Because the income is not enough. The money that I'm gonna pay for my insurance, I'm just gonna use it to buy groceries. You can buy an insurance in the Philippines for as low as $50, but why would I do that if my kids would need allowance to go to school? So I think financial inclusion is not only giving them access to seamless payments to be able to invest in a property, buy an insurance, or to be able to send remittance to the Philippines, but financial inclusion is also giving opportunities not only to women, but to Filipinos on how they can earn better income. And for VIPs here and for the founders of companies here, I am urging you to somehow look into how we are compensating our Filipino employees. How are we somehow contributing to financial inclusion in the Philippines? And with our company, we are actively looking into that. And we also try to have sessions on how we can give financial literacy to our employees. So these are just some quotes from our partner property developers. Some of them has 70-30 women to men ratio, and some of them has 60-30 in their workplace. And another thing that we found out is that they said, the property developers quoted that buyers are more inclined to buying with women sellers because women are naturally caring and they're naturally more patient for real estate deals. Because real estate deals could usually take 2 months, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So more women are more patient in terms of closing long-term transactions with the buyers. So to close this, I would like to show you just a sample of our portal with one of our most active real estate or property developer partner. This is Century Properties. You just simply go to century-properties.com, go to online payments, and you will see Qwikwire. So I'm very happy to see some familiar faces here like Union Bank, Rico. We're also partnering with them in terms of conveniently transferring money to our on time with our property developers. Miss Grace from getmore.ph, we're so happy that I finally seen you here. They do provide all the technical tools, not only for property developers, but for their sellers, which we are helping more empowering women. I mean, for Ayala Land, 60% of their employees are women. So we're giving them FinTech companies like us, or startups like us and getmore.ph, are giving this big traditional real estate companies a way to make transactions easier. So with that, I'll thank you so much for the time today, and I hope that you got some insights with this presentation. Thank you.